This is going to be a video on some of the things that actually ascending with looks, with charisma, with game in general taught me about women. Now, there are 5 key points I'm going to focus on. You can sort of jump ahead if you would like to, but I'm going to go into detail on each one because I made a transformation over the last few years that has genuinely taught me so much, where I've gone from, you know, a guy who had the principles of game, understanding women and female nature, to now building a very, very good physique where I've got, you know, 10 to 12% body fat, and I'm no longer a fat chud. I have essentially ascended. Now, there are going to be some looks maxing aspects to this video, and if you're someone who's come into this video with the mentality that, oh, looks don't matter, they are not important, I suggest you respectfully fuck off, because this video is not going to be for you, right? This is going to be for guys who understand and have taken the black pill, if you will, that looks are important and that women do care, right? So there are a lot of things that I've learned, and you know, this is just going to be a slight summary of some of them. And I'm going to go into detail in each one. Now, what I will say is that I was never someone who really couldn't get any women. I wasn't an incel. I did get girls. I did have girls around me. But ascending has genuinely brought me to a different level. And the reason that I actually want to highlight this is because many of you guys will be able to get some sort of female attraction, or you have some access to girls, but maybe you aren't able to attract them. Maybe they aren't, you know, maybe they friend zoned you. Maybe, you know, you're getting girls and you can't get the ones you actually want. You can't get the, you know, in your eyes, the 10s. Maybe you can't settle down with a girlfriend. This is going to bring you across a bridge that game won't be able to, right? And I'll get into game a little bit later. But number one is that looks open the door. They genuinely open the door. And I would actually argue this is probably the biggest one, because when a girl sees you for the first time, she has nothing to go off. She doesn't know anything about you. She doesn't know anything about, you know, your job, your charisma, any of the words that are going to come out of her mouth. She doesn't even know if you speak the same language. But what she does know are the things that her subconscious, or maybe even her conscious, will pick up. Humans, on average, judge people in about 0.3 seconds, right? That's less than a second, a third of a second. And they make that judgment with about up to 70% accuracy. It's somewhere around 60 to 70% accuracy. So if you look at someone, and you will do this yourself, you will look at someone and you'll make a judgment. Maybe you see a nitty or a crackhead, or, you know, a fentanyl fiend on the street. You'll make instant assumptions. You'll see a really hot girl and you'll make instant assumptions. It's crazy that people don't understand that those instant assumptions are being made back onto them. Now, I'm not someone to say, yeah, go around judging people. I believe only God can judge, but you know, you can still look at someone and make certain assertions. For example, if someone is overweight, you are going to assume that they are undisciplined. And by proxy, if someone is in very good shape, you're going to assume that they are disciplined, and you are signaling a higher level of man, if you will. So what you actually want to do is work on your looks. And you might ask, what does that look like? You know, go watch my other videos. I can get into a little bit, but you can sort of see the hint here. You just have to be in great shape. And great shape is 10 to 12% body fat. Have a bit of muscle. That's all it is. Have a bit of muscle, be very lean, the leanness that I'm sort of showing to you now. And that's pretty much it. Because this is going to do so much for not only your body, but your face. Your face is going to become more attractive. And in order to get into good shape, you have to eat clean foods. You have to sort of, you know, be quite cautious of other areas of your health. And by proxy, you get lean. And by proxy, you become better looking. Your skin starts to glow. You start to feel better. Your energy is better. Your hair is better. So looks will open the door, right? It is more powerful than game. I'm someone who has genuinely gone down the red pill rabbit hole. I have watched every single dating coach you could imagine, from AMS to Coach Corey Wayne to you know, the pickup artists and all the rest of them. But whilst that stuff is important, this is going to do way more for you, way more for you. And sort of beyond the body and the physicality, something I haven't mentioned much in my YouTube channel so far, but that is going to be things like your fashion, right? And your grooming. These are also things that women will pick up subconsciously. If you're in great shape, you tell her, I look after myself. If you've got a good haircut, it shows I look after myself. If you dress well, it says I look after myself. And these are signaling attraction, right? There are things that women are just going to look for. And a woman doesn't want a guy who can't dress. A woman doesn't want a guy who can't even give himself, go to take himself to the barbers or the hairdresser. A woman doesn't want a guy who doesn't know how to shower and smell nice, right? These are all things that women are going to find attractive, and it opens the door. It lets you create the initial attraction before you ever open your mouth, which is where then the game or whatever, you want to say to her is going to come in. So looks are number one in terms of creating the initial attraction, right? She's never going to come up to you unless she's attracted to you in the first place. Women don't approach, unattractive guys. And if you are someone who is not getting at least some sort of choosing signal where, a girl smiles at you when you're walking through the shop, or a girl even comes up to you in a club, it's probably because you just haven't maxed out your stats. And, that's going to take me on to the next one. Women care. Women genuinely care about what you look like, because yes, it signals attraction, but it also signals a lot of other things that women are attracted to subconsciously, evolutionarily. So if a guy, is in great shape, he's going to be seen as a protector. And that's why you'll see these guys, that's why women tend to go for, now some of you guys are going to hate this part, but that's why women tend to go for someone who's slightly taller, because they're just seen as physically domineering. And that's why also being lean has to come with muscle. You need to have muscle. I'm not saying go out there and be a bodybuilder. And I'm also not saying go out there and be someone who's incredibly skinny, like, your runway models. Find the happy medium. I'd argue I'm around the happy medium. Maybe I'm a little bit too big for some girls, but I'll tell you what, I haven't experienced that. I don't think I've had any single girl say, oh, you know what, you're a bit too muscly for me. Not even the fat ones. Hasn't happened. Not even the bodybuilder girls. They say I'm too small, in fact. So you're going to get the signaling of being a protector. And also, if you don't know this, men who are in shape, men who look after themselves, who have better grooming, tend to earn more money. And we all know that, these women, they're all gold diggers. Some are just better at hiding it. Shout out Myron. Some women are just better at hiding their ability to gold dig. So they'll go for certain traits that will signal that a man is going to be successful. So you can be a broke bum and still, get a woman who's going to see you as, that man's got potential. So you're going to be seen better at providing, right? Providing. You're going to be seen as better at providing, not just protection, but financially. A guy who looks after his health is more than likely going to look after his bank account, is more than likely going to be able to look after the woman. How you do one thing is how you do everything, right? So women care. It's in their subconscious to care. And the final point that I can use to accentuate this is because if you look at the creep versus the, let's call it Chad, if they say the exact same thing, hey, you look really nice today, or I really like that dress on you. If the fat, unshowered, ungroomed, poorly dressed, bad smelling creep goes up to her, what is he? He's a creep. If he says that, he's a creep. But if Chad, i.e. me, goes up to her and says, that top looks incredible, fuck it, I can even go as far as to say, that top makes your boobs look amazing. I've said things like that before. I've said, you know what? You've got fantastic legs in those trousers. It works. Why? Because it's being said by Chad. It's not being said by creep, right? And you can see this countless times. In fact, I'd actually urge some of you guys, go onto Google and type in an ugly guy is touching me, and then type in a good looking guy is touching me. See what comes up. It's not every time, but a lot of the time the AI will actually say, if the ugly guy's touching you, make sure that you go and get help. Make sure that, you call the police or something. Whereas when the Chad You know, when the good looking guys actually go, it's like, oh, maybe he's trying to flirt, maybe he's being charming. That even AI knows and you don't know, and you have access to AI. So don't be the creep, be the Chad. And you know, this is done by 10 to 12% body fat, being in good shape, having good fashion, having good grooming, looking after yourself in all aspects of the physicality, right? And now you're sitting and looking at these two going, well, I now need to be a perfect 10 out of 10 Chad. Wrong, right? You don't have to start to get surgery. And this is where I'm gonna, you know, piss off maybe some of the claviculars and the fucking guys who are just so obsessed with every millimeter of their face being perfect. You don't need to be perfect. You don't. You just need to be, well, I'm gonna give credit to this creator called 1M. I actually can't remember his name off the top of my head, but 1M, check him out, he does great content. You need to be a straight 7. This means a 7 in grooming. I have to get low for this one. A 7 in grooming, a 7 physique, a 7 in hair, a 7 in fashion. Hair and grooming, kind of similar, kind of different. I think grooming, skincare, all of this stuff. What you want to be is a 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, right? It is better to be a straight 7 than it is to have, for example, a 10 in grooming, a 10 in hair, a 10 in fashion, but your physique's a 4. See what I'm getting at here? Now, I would obviously argue that physique is the most important, because what happens is the rest of the stuff starts to elevate when you work on your physique, right? But don't get it twisted. There are still guys who are incredibly lean and have fantastic bodies, but they look like bums because their hair is grown out and they look like they just sit and, you know, build computers all day. Nothing wrong with that. I love building computers. I'm also a nerd. So you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to go and get surgery. You don't need to go and, you know, I don't know. You don't need to go and do a ton of, you know, biohacking, if you will. You can achieve it from simply elevating these 4 aspects and maybe a few more to actually get to where you want to get to. Now, if you are someone that's like, damn, I want to work on my looks and, you know, have women care about me, and I'm not perfect, I want to actually get results that are going to give me more female attention. What I want you to do is I want you to click the link in my bio, get access to my free training, right? It's entirely free, just got to type in your email and whatnot, and you can basically get the answer to how to solve these problems. It's entirely free. It's going to get you on the road to improving your confidence, your game, your ability to talk to women. But this is where the video gets a little bit interesting. Wait until I talk about this thing. This is what matters, right? Looks equals confidence. Confidence comes from one place. Confidence comes from evidence, right? If I walk outside and I have no women tell me that I'm good looking and they like me, how am I going to feel? Am I going to feel confident? Am I going to have, you know, a bravado about me? No, I'm not. If I go to the gym and I'm weak and I can't push any weight, am I going to have any confidence? No, right? Confidence comes from evidence, and it's something that has to be developed. Confidence is like a muscle. You can build it. On the other side, if I walk outside and I have women say, damn, you look incredible, you have great muscles, am I going to feel confident? Absolutely, because I've got evidence that I'm looking good and that women are attracted to me. So then how am I going to feel when I approach another woman? If I have had 10 women tell me, hey man, you're sexy, how am I going to feel when I think about approaching the 11th? I'm going to walk up and go, 10 women just thought I was sexy. What are the chances that the 11th is going to find me sexy? Now, she might not, but the chances are she probably will. So you need to build confidence through evidence. And how do you get said evidence? Being in shape, 10 to 12% body fat, fashion, grooming, making women care, right? Women need to care, and they will care about these things. They do. They care about them a lot. And again, you don't need to be perfect, but you do need to start working on them. This is where confidence comes in. Confidence does not come from thin air. You have to work on it. And the more you do it, the better you get. So then the first time you approach a girl, you know, maybe you got a little bit of confidence because you're dressing a little bit nice. You're like waking up in the morning, looking in the mirror going, damn, I've got abs. Damn, my hair's looking clean. The barber nice to me. You know, my skin, it's glowing because I done my skincare, I put my toner on. You know, you put your Centellian toner. If you know, you know Korean skincare. You're going to start feeling good. And with feeling good, you're going to ooze confidence. You're going to get more results, more girls complimenting you, more feeling amazing, right? So I was checking if my oven's on, I got lamb in there. You're going to start feeling amazing. And then when you approach more girls, you're going to get more results. This is pretty short and simple, but looks do, unfortunately, or if you're actually going to work on it, fortunately equal confidence. Simple as that. Now, this is where things get very interesting. I could genuinely wipe this whole board and do a 30-minute video talking about this, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet for you guys. This is the best part. Options equals game, right? Now the reason options equal game is because options means you have abundance, right? When you have abundance, you don't care, which means you are indifferent. Game is indifference. That's it. That's the knowledge you need. If you want to have good game, if anyone is going to define what game is just indifference. And the only way you can have indifference towards women, towards money, towards, you know, anything in life is if you have an abundance of it. If I have £1 million and someone takes away 10 of them, it doesn't matter. I will feel indifferent. Why? Because I'll have abundance. I have £1 million. I don't need the 10. Options, right? Options equals abundance. If you have options, if you've got lots of money, if you've got lots of women you could date, you have abundance. If you have abundance, you are indifferent. There is no point sitting and thinking that game is tactics and words and this, because the truth is, if you've only got one girl to talk to, you're going to be very, very careful what you say to her because you don't want that to go to waste. If you have £10, you're going to be very, very careful how you spend it. You're going to operate from a scarcity mindset. But if you have options, you will operate with abundance. You will feel indifferent. If that one girl says, I don't want to come round tonight, what are you going to do? Get angry? No, you've got 4 others, right? That is what game is. And how do you create options? You create options by building the confidence and having tons of girls, right? I'm not saying go sleep with them, but having options, understanding what a good apple is and a bad apple is through experience. You don't have to, you know, sleep with these girls. You can just read the Bible with them. But looks, you know, equal confidence. Now, how do you get looks? You have to go towards what women care about. Women care about the guy who is in great shape. They care about the guy who dresses well and carries himself well. They care about the guy who's groomed well. They care about the guy who has, you know, good skin, good teeth. And this is why looks open doors. So as you can see, looks gives you what? Options. And options give you game. That's the truth. If you really, there are more details into what game is, but I promise you, you work on your looks, your game will improve significantly. Significantly. But if you are someone who wants to work on their looks, wants to actually improve their physique, and therefore improve their options, and therefore their game, and their ability to find a girlfriend, date, have a roster, live a full life of just, you know, fucking girls, if that's, you know, what pleases you. I don't advocate for it, but if that's what pleases you, I recommend you go into the description and you get access to my free training. So you can be lean, look good, be what women care about, become confident, and have game. I will see you guys in the next one.